Hi and welcome to another session on English for Banking. This is Deepa and we will be going ahead with our English class today. Before we start, I would like to tell you that we have a live chat with the founder, co-founder and CEO of Ola, Mr. Bhavish Agarwal at 8 o'clock tonight. So tune in to watch it, do not miss it. He is an IIT Delhi guy and he's co-founded Ola Cabs. Do watch it and benefit from that. Okay, so today we start our class, and as promised, I will be giving you book recommendations on an everyday basis. Okay, today we talk about Americana. Okay. Okay, so Americana is a book by the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Now, a lot of people, whenever they are asked the question, hey, okay, what is your favorite book? Okay, so typically they give you books that sound very intellectual. Okay, so these are books on objectivism or classics like, in my opinion, a classic is Jane Eyre, Austen. Okay, so these authors have given us classics, but not many generally say that their favorite book happens to be something contemporary. Okay, so before we start with Americana, what is the meaning of the word contemporary? Something contemporary, remember that contemporary comes from con and tempo. These are the roots. Okay, con is the root word for same, tempo is time. Okay, so a contemporary author is someone who is in the same time. Okay, or you can say A and B were contemporaries in their respective field, meaning they belong to the same time. Okay, Bach and Beethoven were probably contemporaries. Please don't take that as at face value, because I don't know, I'm just giving you an example there. Now going to Americana. This is a brilliant book by the author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, as I said. Okay, so Adichie is probably in her 40s right now, and she's written quite a few books, and most of them are on contemporary issues. Americana, for example, deals with a Nigerian student getting out of a very troubled Nigeria. Her university actually shuts down, and she has no other option but to go to the Americas to further her education. So this is a cultural view on a Nigerian going to the United States, pursuing education and leading a life there. Okay, so it's very light. Please pick it up. It's not something that is very intellectual, but it deals with a lot of intellectual underlying issues: feminism, racism, reverse racism. Okay, so pick it up if you are interested in that. Women would very ideally connect with her on a lot of issues, and men readers, well, it would help you to understand women better and modern feminism. Okay, so with that we start with our class, and as usual we start with a recap. Okay, so yesterday we saw prepositions, conjunctions, articles. We also had interjection as one of the topics. We'll be doing that a little later, okay, because time did not permit me to take up interjection. All right, now let's go to the CPP question that most of you got wrong. Now this is an example of a close passage, okay, and I've been repeating, if you read frequently, if you read regularly, passages become a piece of cake, okay. But for those who do not read, it is going to be a problem. So please, please, please pick up a book, okay. So today's suggestion is Americana. Probably you can start there, okay. So most of you went wrong with question 10. The passage deals with gold schemes. Now remember that most of the passages that I pick for you are with some thought on, you know, what is generally asked in banking examinations. Banking examination passages have to do with topics like banking, economy, commerce, money, then policies, policy making, governance, etc. Okay, so this is something that is in the spectrum, okay. So look at this, it talks about gold schemes of the government, okay, and the 10th question, banks will not give the same jewelry deposited that is likely to meet with a lot of dash. Now the entire passage talks about a scheme, and then they end it with what do you call, you know, an opinion of how this particular scheme might not work. What's the reason given? So like with money, okay, today I deposit 200 rupee notes. I actually physically go to the you know, the counter, deposit 200 rupee notes, and then when I withdraw the amount from an ATM, I don't really care whether my 200 rupees is going to come out as 450 rupee notes, 200 rupee notes, my very same notes, okay, I don't care. But that's not the case with jewelry, okay. So the entire passage, it talks about the schemes and then says Indians have a cultural, emotional attachment with their gold, okay. So what you deposit as gold might not just might not, it will not come as your own jewelry, the jewelry that you deposited, but it's going to be an equivalent with the interest earned as gold bars, okay. So it says that there would be a problem as people cannot really part with their gold, it has an emotional connect, okay. So it's very different from currency in that case, okay. So this is likely to meet with a lot of dash, okay. Now the feedback is not going to be something positive, I'm looking for a negative word here, okay. So remember that before I go to the options, I have an idea of what kind of a word to look for. What I do is I look for a negative word first, okay. Now differentiation is actually neutral, okay. Then delectable means tasty, okay. So that's not the answer. Differentiation again, okay, is definitely not the answer because it is neutral. Then receptivity, reception, hi, I've been teaching you for a long time, okay, and are you receptive? Do you actually, you know, enthusiastically take in what I teach? That is receptivity. Or you can also talk about cell phone signal receptivity. I'm in a place that has bad reception, receptivity, okay. So that is again neutral. So this is not your answer. Then there is negativity and reluctance. Now they are very possible contenders, but I go one line above. If he or she chooses to receive gold in the end, it will be standardized gold bars, okay. Then it will be met with a lot of, you can say negativity, but in this case it is reluctance that you go for because the entire passage talks about people's reluctance to enter the scheme in the first place, okay. Why are they reluctant? Reluctance means hesitation, okay. They are hesitant, they are reluctant to go up, to go ahead with the scheme because they would not get their gold in the form that they gave the bank, Okay, they would get it as plain gold bars. Alright, so I hope that clarifies the doubts that you've had with this particular question. Now, let's go ahead with this class's content. Goals for this class: today we'll be seeing synthesis of simple sentences, direct and indirect objects, clauses versus phrases. Okay. Now, we'll be seeing all of this in a reverse order because synthesis of a sentence involves these two: clause, indirect objects, direct objects, phrase, etc. Okay. Now, we look at what synthesis of a sentence is essentially about. Okay. Synthesis, what is synthesis? When you synthesize a compound, what happens? You actually put together some things, okay, and form a compound. Synthesis is the combination of a number of simple sentences into one new sentence. Okay. Now, there are three kinds of sentences, by the way. One is simple, then there is a compound sentence, and then there is a complex sentence. Today we will be seeing simple sentences, but as I said, we will be looking at the components, the individual components, and then we move on to a sentence. Okay. So what is a simple sentence? This is anything in your SVO structure. I like books, I like reading. Okay. It has only one clause. We will be looking at what clauses and phrases are. Okay. Now, what's a compound? What's a compound sentence? Consists of two or more independent clauses. We'll also be looking at this particular independent clause definition. Okay, just keep in mind, you know, the details that I give here. As we proceed, it would be of great help to you. Then, complex sentence has at least one independent clause plus at least one dependent clause. So it's a hybrid of a dependent clause and an independent clause. Okay. Now, if you put together a lot of words, that might give you some kind of a meaning, okay, but it is not grammatically correct, okay, with no independent clause, then it is a sentence fragment, it is not a complete sentence. Okay. So, as I said initially, we'll be looking at clauses. Okay. Now, what is a clause? A clause, anyone who wants to hazard a guess here, what is a clause, what is a phrase? So, any group of words, okay, that you put together, one plus word, okay, that is a phrase. There are types of phrases, yes. Now, if you put together these phrases, you can form a clause. A clause is something that has its own subject and a verb. Okay, this is a clause. So, you can put together phrases to form a clause. Now, deal with the details that I have given. A simple sentence has one clause. Okay, as I said, a simple SVO structure. Okay, the object of course is not mandatory. Then, compound sentence. Okay, it has two or more independent clauses. Now, what is a dependent clause? What is an independent clause? When you look at clause examples, I'll give you an example so that it is easier for you. Okay, while I was waiting, comma, the rains lashed out. Now, while I was waiting is not a complete sentence. Okay, it is a clause. But it has a subject, it has a verb. I and the subject, am waiting or was waiting, that was the verb. Correct? Okay. So, that is a clause. It doesn't make a complete sentence though. Okay. So, in this particular case, you have two or more, while I was waiting, comma, it was raining badly. That is a complex sentence. As I said, it's a hybrid version, it's a hybrid match. But in a compound sentence, you have independent clauses. An independent clause is something that can stand alone as a sentence all by itself. I was waiting and the dog barked. In this case, I was waiting is a complete sentence. The dog barked again is a complete sentence. They are independent clauses. We form a compound sentence when we club these together with the conjunction of course. Okay, so this is about clauses and phrases. Now we look at how we synthesize sentences. Okay, so look at this sentence. He jumped upwards, he caught the ball. Okay, jumping upwards, he caught the ball. Okay, so this sentence has been phrased into jumping upwards with a participle. The ing word, that is a participle. He caught the ball. Now remember very clearly, when you have jumping upwards, comma, he caught the ball. Okay, now remember that this clause, jumping upwards, comma, who is jumping upwards? It's he, correct? The subject has to appear right after the comma, otherwise your sentence is wrong. Now if I write it this way, jumping upwards, the ball was caught by him. In this case, jumping upwards, okay, you haven't introduced a subject here, you have a comma. Now if you haven't introduced your subject as of yet with this phrase, remember that right after the comma you have to. In this particular case, you mean to say that he caught the ball, but what you end up saying is the ball is the one jumping upwards, not the boy, not the person involved. Okay, so this is wrong. Got it? Now let's look at the next. So this is of much use when you would be doing your spot the error exercises. Okay, so jumping upwards, he caught the ball. Who is jumping upwards? That person has to come here. Okay. Now, she was tired of the traffic delay. She got down and walked. So how do you synthesize this? Tired of the traffic delay, comma, she got down and walked. Who is tired? She. So right after the comma, you do have the subject. Okay. So this is synthesizing a sentence with a participle. Now, next is synthesizing a sentence with a preposition and a noun or gerund. Okay. So a preposition with noun or gerund. Read it that way. Look at this example. Her dog died, full stop. She heard the news, full stop. She fainted. So there are three clauses essentially that you need to put together. How do you do it? On hearing the news of her dog's death, comma, she fainted. Okay. Now ask yourself, on hearing, who is hearing? Right after the comma, there is she. She is hearing. Makes sense? Okay. So you always have to ask yourself this. Okay. Now let's look at another example, which is, in this particular order. On seeing that he was losing, comma, MSD went to the crease himself. Okay. Now in this case, on seeing blah 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 blah, there is MSD right after the comma. So you understand that MSD is the one who is seeing. Now if I rephrase it this way, on seeing that an innings defeat was inevitable. The match was declared, blah 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 blah. Okay. Now on seeing, there is absolutely no subject here for the on seeing part. Right after the comma you have the match. The match is seeing. That makes no sense, right? So this entire sentence is wrong. It doesn't have a main subject at all. Okay. So I hope that is very clear. Now this is a very oft repeated kind of test for you in your sentence correction and spot the error exercises. Okay. Now look at the other example that I've given. Loki has failed many times, full stop. He still hopes to succeed. What do you do here? In spite of failing. In spite of failing many times, Loki still hopes to succeed. Now who is Loki, by the way? Pop culture fun fact for the day. How many of you watch superhero movies? Okay, and if you do watch, how many of you are DC fans? How many of you are Marvel fans? Who is Loki? Okay, Loki is the brother of Thor, not biologically, but Loki is adopted. While anyhow, so Loki is the brother of the god of thunder, Thor. Okay, and Thor is part of the Avengers series, Avengers franchise. Okay, so if you are into comics, that is still reading material. Well, I wouldn't call it brilliant reading material, but it would still be a very good starting point for you. So you can pick up comic books, superhero comic books. Okay, so as I said, DC and Marvel are just brilliant. I personally like Batman, Superman. I would very much recommend these to you. Okay, so go ahead, you can probably start there as well. Now we go to the previous class's contest question. Okay, so I hear that Gurunath got it right. Congratulations, Gurunath. You win an atom session with HashLearn. Using the atom session, you can get any of your doubts cleared by one of our experts. So brilliant job there. Okay, so my best wishes to Gurunath. Now let's look at the question. Okay, I would rather be alone dash in a bad marriage. Rather and than go hand in hand. Okay, so I had very intentionally skipped the part where you discuss rather and than. I remember that we did neither nor, either or not only, but also between and, both and pairs, correct? Now if you have rather, okay, as a comparative element, then you should have than. I would rather be alone than in a bad marriage. Okay, so the answer is than. None of the other prepositions would fit in here. Okay, so today we move to the contest question. Good luck with today's contest question. So that was enough time for you to solve today's contest question. I hope at least one of you gets it right. It's quite an interesting, trivia bit, studying phobias and manias. Okay, while we are in the, in the topic, what is xenophobia? Anyone? Phobia, as you know, is fear. Okay, xeno is to do with anything foreign. When you say you have xenophobia, it means that you are afraid of foreigners, aliens, okay, anyone who is not your kind. All right, that is xenophobia. And then there is also mania, okay, or holic. When you are maniac about something, maniacal about something, or manic about something, it means that you're obsessed with it. Okay, so tomorrow probably I'll have a contest question on manias. So please, study on manias tomorrow. All right, so we'll go with our synthesis of sentences. Now we deal with infinitive. What is an infinitive first and foremost? It is the base form of a verb. Okay, so cut, to cut, that is the basic form of the word cut. Okay, so that is infinitive. You can also join two clauses with an infinitive. Let's look at this. Usain Bolt wanted to win the marathon, full stop, he trained hard. Well, please don't tell me that Usain Bolt is actually a sprinter, so the idea of a marathon does not really make much sense. Forget it, it's a grammar question, okay, so don't look at the context here, okay. So Usain trained hard to win the marathon. So with an infinitive, I join the clauses, okay. So this is the most basic way of putting together a sentence. Then we can synthesize sentences with an adverb or an adverbial phrase. Okay, the sun had set, full stop, we had not reached home. So what do we, how do we put this together? We had not reached home by sunset. The by sunset part is an adverbial phrase here. Okay. Then we come to our practice question. Now this is a very important sentence. It's not just another sentence that I've picked up for your practice session. This is very important when you do stuff like linguistic analysis. Okay. By the way, it is by the person who came up with this was Groucho Marx. Any of you have any idea about the Marx Brothers? Now I would also like to give you a film suggestion today. If you like slapstick genre of movies, then please go and watch the Marx Brothers Duck Soup. It's the mecca of slapstick comedy. It looks like it's very, it's just another comedy of involving, goof ups. But if you look at it, the subtext is very, very, very clear. Okay, like with Charlie Chaplin and his slapstick genre, on the surface you just laugh at the goofs and the clumsiness of the actors, but there is a very deep underlying subtext that kind of revolves around a more serious topic. Okay, so typically Charlie Chaplin had slapstick that was based on industrial revolution, the working class and all that. Okay, please do go and watch Duck Soup. Please let me know whether you liked it, and more importantly, if the subtext was something that you caught. Okay, also remember that when I give you suggestions, be it books, movies, you need to figure out that it was made in a certain time frame. Okay, for example, I clearly remember mentioning To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, now that was a book written in, written before that. She chose to publish it, or her publisher chose it publish worthy and went ahead to publish it in 1960. Okay, So you always need to have the time frame in mind and the place. Okay, so To Kill a Mockingbird was something of cultural significance back then, but of course you can also say that racism is very real even today, and that it makes a lot of sense even today. So there are such timeless classics, and then there is there is a genre that you need to watch or read with the time frame in mind. Okay, so that's enough about Groucho Marx. We'll go to the sentence in place. One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got into my pajamas, I will never know. Okay. Now, when you do this, you need to figure out an underlying concept. See, the reason I chose this particular example is solely to teach you direct objects and indirect objects. Okay. So, number one, what is an object? I told you that when you frame a sentence in the English language, a simple sentence, it is broadly in the SVO format, where you have the subject, verb and the object. We've done enough and more about subject and verb. Okay. Today we deal with object. Okay. So remember that the object is again a noun in most cases. Okay. In most cases it is a noun. The verb, as I told you, is the action word. The subject is the doer. Doer, action. And the object is where the action happens. Then when we were dealing with verbs, I also told you that some verbs are transitive, some verbs are intransitive. A transitive verb that is one that needs an object. If you use a transitive verb, it is mandatory for you to have an object in place. But in case you do not require an object for certain verbs, they are intransitive verbs. Okay. So again, we've seen examples. Okay. I teach physics. Why not? Okay. So when I say I teach, the question of what do I teach comes into the mind. What do I teach? I teach physics. Okay. Then there is I walk. Okay. In this case, this does not mandate an object. So this is intransitive, while teach is a transitive verb. Okay. So why am I teaching you all of this? To look at one sentence. Okay. As I said, the subtext here is to make you learn direct and indirect objects. Okay. Now, what is a direct object? I like tea. Okay. So in this case, tea is a direct object. Okay. Now look at this example. I draw a salary for my efforts. Okay. Now in this case, what's the main verb? It's draw. Okay. Then what do I draw? A salary. This is your direct object. Then you have another noun, efforts. Okay. Now I draw a salary for my efforts. That in this case, efforts Okay, that is your indirect object. Okay, then now look at this. I gave him a piece of my mind. So, what's the meaning of this sentence? I gave him a piece of my mind. It doesn't mean that literally I pick something from my mind and give it to him. Okay, so that happens, by the way, in the fantasy world of Harry Potter. If you've seen the movie, you would know that Professor Severus Snape actually picks memories. Okay, he picks memories from his mind, passes it on to Harry. Okay, it's one of the most defining moments, and his memories are, you know, an emotionally traumatic series. Okay, so if you haven't read the books, seen the movies, please go watch, read. All right, by the way, I'm wrong when I say watch, read. You know why? Watch and read are transitive in this particular context. What do I watch? What do I read? Those questions come into the picture. Please go and watch Harry Potter. Please go and read Harry Potter. So it has to have a subject. It has to have an object. Okay. Now look at this. I gave him a piece of my mind. When I say I am giving someone a piece of my mind, it means I'm knocking some sense into their mind. Okay. They're doing something stupid, and I'm probably telling them, you know what, this is stupid. Okay. So that is giving a piece of mind. All right. So in this case, this is my direct object, okay, and him, whom do I give it to? That is the indirect object. Now that you know, you have a very clear idea on what direct objects, indirect objects are, you can tell me that, okay, now you can tell me what the confusion in this particular sentence is all about. Anyone? One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got into my pajamas, I'll never know. Okay, so Groucho Marx was known for his wit, which is very evidently seen here. Okay, now forget all of this. I shot an elephant in my pajamas. Okay, so what is the main verb here? Shot. Okay, the subject is I shot, and then the direct object is elephant. Correct? Elephant is the direct object. Do you have any trouble associating elephant with the direct object bucket? Okay, now see, things become very simple when you deal with sentences in a tree form. As I told you, today machine learning, when you create chatbots, for example, that is where it's used brilliantly, you know, your computational linguistics. They always build your phrases in trees. Okay, so they start with the verb. This is the subject. So these two would have a subject verb link. What did I shoot? These two would have a verb object link. Okay, I shot an elephant. Well, let's just make it an elephant. Let's just make it complete because we are dealing with the linguistic tree. Okay, an elephant. An is the article here. Okay, so I shot an elephant. Yes, the sentence is complete here. Then you modify it further with the in my pajamas part. Okay, where would you put the pajamas? Is it to do with the elephant? Is it to do with the subject? Now, if you append it to the main verb, okay, you can clearly see that I shot, I was in my pajamas. I am the one who shot, I was in my pajamas. But if you append it to elephant, then it means that I shot an elephant and the elephant was in pajamas. Makes no sense, correct? Well, maybe there was, an elephant that somehow accidentally got into my pajamas, but that's too far-fetched, correct? Now, when we deal with, computational linguistics, as I told you, this is a classic example that we take into picture to figure out where to append what. Okay. So, what is the error here? Now you would know very well. This we call, when it comes to your examination syllabus, the dangling modifier. What is a modifier? The crux of this particular sentence is, I shot an elephant. That's the action happening. Everything else modifies that. Now, in my pajamas is a modifier, correct? Modifier, remember, is something that is dispensable. Even if you take it out of the sentence holds its crux. For example, I drive a Volkswagen. Okay. Now, I can choose to say I drive a black Volkswagen. Black is something that is not necessary to complete this sentence. Okay, I drive a Volkswagen is good enough. Okay, black is a modifier. Okay, now how exactly does the confusion arise here? It is because the modifier position is not right. Now you should clearly say that I was the one in my pajamas, the elephant was not. Okay, so that is how you should frame your sentences. The error in this particular sentence is in the confusion. Okay, is it the elephant in pajamas or is it me? Well, your mind says that I was in my pajamas. Now, you know the human brain can understand it this way. But if you feed it into a machine, think of what it can do. The machine cannot really realize that the elephant cannot be in pajamas, or just that the probability of that being the case is very negligible. Okay, not even low, it's just negligible. Okay, so that is why the modifier placement is very important. Okay, how would you rephrase this? That's the error. So we have found the error in the sentence. This is a dangling modifier, correct? The elephant cannot be in pajamas. So how would you rephrase this? One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas should be rephrased as, one morning, I went out in my pajamas and I shot an elephant, correct? Or, I was in my pajamas when I shot an elephant. You know what? I was just wandering around in my pajamas, I saw an elephant and I shot the elephant. Shot again is a transitive verb. So it needs an object. Okay. So what is the object here? The direct object is elephant. Now, if you deal with elephant in my pajamas, okay, actually have no link. Okay, the elephant in pajamas have nothing to do with each other. Okay, so this is something that has to be connected with the subject. So now do you understand why we construct sentences in a certain fashion? Okay, so the dangling modifier is a very important part of spotting the error kind of questions. You need to know where to place what. Okay, so another example that I would like to give you is I ate samosas and tea from a plate. Okay, now obviously my tea is not from a plate, the samosas are from a plate, correct? So the dangling modifier is something that is very important. Always give it not just a grammatical thought, also look at it from a contextual view. With this, we come to the close of this session. Let's summarize. We've gone through synthesis of sentences, which is nothing but combination of sentences, simple clauses, okay, then or not so simple clauses. Then there are direct and indirect objects. I doubt you will have any doubts with indirect objects now. Always remember what Groucho Marx says in case you have any doubts with direct or indirect objects. Then clauses versus phrases. Okay, so thanks for joining us. Please, passport members, immediately go and encounter your CPP questions. For others, the CPP is open only to passport members. It is a set of 10 questions that we believe are suitable application oriented questions for this session. Okay, so CPP please go ahead, share your CPP with others, my dear passport members, okay, and share your knowledge. Thank you then. Bye. See you tomorrow.